Claire Sparklin, and she is a WCC faculty, and she teaches communications, and she's just a remarkable person. So it's going to be a lot of fun today. And today we're going to be talking about persuasion and what's called the pitch technique, which I think it will help us all, even the older people here, to listen to this, you know. So one thing I want to say before we let Claire take over and start the session is that we are going to record this session. So if you don't want to be on the recording, you can close your webcam, but we love to see your face. That's always great. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Claire.
Hey there. Oh my gosh, I am so glad you all tuned in this afternoon here on your Saturday afternoon. I can tell you that this session is on communication and persuasion and learning something that is really incredible. It's called the pitch technique. And this technique is something that can help you have your voice be heard. If you sometimes are in groups and you feel like people aren't listening to you, or as you look at your life and you think you don't have enough power to have your voice be heard, the techniques that we're going to go over today are something that is going to help you with this. People like the pitch technique because it helps them get their voice heard. It helps them influence other people. It helps them become like a really key and integral part of the groups that they work in. It helps them be more successful at school and work. And really, ultimately, that means more power for you. So I'm really glad that you took this time this afternoon because we're going to learn about the pitch technique. So let me share my screen here. All right, here we are. So this is persuasion from no to yes using the pitch technique. So you can use this technique whether it's in your everyday life or if you are in class or if you're working outside of school. This pitch technique can be used in a variety of different ways, even in other organizations that you belong to. So to get us started, we're going to play a little game called Waffles or Pancakes. And with waffles or pancakes, we're going to go around our Zoom room here. And the first person we're going to ask, we're going to say, all right, what do you like better, waffles or pancakes? And they get to choose either waffles or pancakes. And then what they'll do is they'll tag someone else. So they might say, let's see, they might say, Susan, I choose pancakes. But now when they tag Susan, they get to change one of those items. So maybe I get rid of waffles and I say, Susan, pancakes or puppies. And then Susan gets to choose either pancakes or puppies. Then she'll tag someone else, swap out one of the items. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, let's go ahead and play. And let's see, Kira, do you want to start us off?
Sure.
All right. So waffles or pancakes, Kira?
Waffles.
Nice. So then you can tag someone else and swap out either waffles or pancakes for something else they have to choose between.
Karen, waffles or a TV.
Ooh, nice. So Karen or Karen, waffles or TV?
They're unmuted.
TV.
Nice.
Anjanae, cats or waffles?
Waffles. Amy, your phone or pancakes?
My
Ooh.
phone. Susan, your phone or puppies?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm going to choose puppies, and I'm going to say, let's see, who hasn't gone? How about Josh? Puppies or pizza?
Puppies.
Nice.
Lauren, puppies or sports?
Puppies. Kerala, puppies or cats?
I would say cats. Sorry, I'm cleaning, so I don't have my video on.
Oh, that's fine.
So I would say cats or swimming in a pool in a nice weather.
Ooh, okay. And let's see, Paola, are you with us right now?
Yes.
Okay, so I think it's cats or swimming in a nice pool.
Cats. And I guess I'll give it to Victor. Swimming or gardening?
Gardening, definitely.
And then Victor, you can hand it back over to me.
Oh, and then I'll hand it back to and then Claire. I'll say French fries or teaching.
Ooh, French fries or baking?
Teaching.
Oh, teaching. I would choose teaching every time. And I really like French fries. So that tells you how much I like teaching. Thanks so much. All right. Well, it was nice to like hear all your voices, make sure our microphones are working and find out what we like better. A lot of us like puppies, it sounds like, which I certainly do too. All right. So there we are with waffles or pancakes. So let me tell you what we're going to do today. We just did an icebreaker, just getting us talking, and really like this session is about making connections with each other and learning this technique. So you'll have a chance to unmute and talk at different times during this. I really like interaction during my online classes. So always feel free to use the little hand icon here in Zoom, or you can just unmute and start talking too. I'm really okay with that. So what we'll do now that we've finished up our icebreaker, we'll go over the guidelines for a good pitch. We'll look at how to organize a pitch. And then we'll start to work in groups to build a pitch together. I find working together is a nice way to learn the techniques, so that way you can apply them to other areas of your life. We'll go over Monroe's motivated sequence, which is one of the most powerful persuasive techniques that we can use. It's the way the pitch was put together. It's kind of like a shorter version of Monroe's motivated sequence. We'll look at how to grab your audience's or your listeners' attention and how to make sure that they understand like the power of that. And then we'll talk a little bit about delivery. And then before we're done, your group will present the pitch that they worked on together, but we'll do everything one step at a time, working our way through it. Any questions about what we're going to cover today? All right. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to get into breakout rooms. And with our breakout rooms, let me make sure I can. There we go. With our breakout rooms, the first thing I'd like you to do is you're going to teach the people in your room your name, how to say it. You might want to talk about how you got that name, what the history is. And then the other thing you're going to talk about is your favorite childhood toy. So whatever toy it was that you liked playing with. If I was in your breakout room, I would say, hi, my name is Claire. I was named after my grandpa, Clarence. And my favorite childhood toy, I had a strawberry shortcake doll that smelled like strawberry shortcake, and I really loved it. So that's what I would share with you if you were in my room. And then the second thing you're going to do is talk about a time when you tried to convince other people about something, either that your idea was the right one, or that, your family should adopt a puppy, or that you should have pancakes instead of waffles, whatever it might be. But a time when you tried to convince others, but you didn't succeed, like someone else's voice got heard over yours, or it just wasn't, it just wasn't chosen. And then the third thing you're going to do is talk about a time when you tried to convince other people of something and you did succeed. So whether that was adopting a dog or having pancakes for breakfast, whatever that might be. All right. Any questions before we jump into that? Does that make sense to everyone? All right. So
Yes.
teach them your name, your favorite childhood toy. Second one, time when you tried to convince people and you didn't succeed. And then a time when you tried to convince others and you did succeed. So we'll take about 5 minutes in our breakout rooms. Make sure each person gets a turn.
Claire,
Yeah.
I wanted Josh to finish what he was saying. Can he
Great.
finish?
Yeah, absolutely. Josh, why don't you finish up what you were saying?
I convinced my class in an in-class debate.
Oh, nice. That's great. And in the other room, was there any other last sentences to say? Okay, we must have done it. All right. So you just had a chance to go into breakout rooms and you met the people in your group. You learned about their name, their favorite childhood toy. And then you talked about a time when you tried to talking about those different times, like the time when it worked and the time when it didn't work. Why do you think you were successful with that second example? And you can either drop it in the chat or you can unmute and chat and talk.
Having evidence, like back support for your claim.
Yeah. Okay. So Josh just said when he was successful, he had evidence, he made a claim, and he backed it up with support. And so Josh is talking about some of the really important pieces of communication. When we make a claim, that's like saying, I had a bad day. We have to then back it up with support, because that's how people judge whether or not they believe you. So if I said I had a bad day and then I gave you support and I said, oh, I got up 5 minutes late and then I didn't have time to sit in bed and check my social media. And then I couldn't find my shoes when I was leaving. It was just a really bad day. That support is not very useful, right? But if my support was, I had a bad day, and then I said, pulling out of my driveway, we ran over my dog. And then my mom got a speeding ticket on the way to work and we were late. I missed my first class. This would be a bad day, right? The claims, the claim was I had a bad day, but the support really helps listeners figure out, do we believe you or not? And so Josh, when he was talking to his class and did the debate in class, he made those claims and then he had really strong support, pieces of evidence that backed up that claim. So that's great, Josh. Who else noticed something about why were you successful in that second attempt? Anyone else?
I think sometimes when you want to convince somebody of something, if it's approachable or things that they like or are more open to in the beginning, makes it much easier than if you come from a total opposite side.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you're talking about is this idea that we want to show common ground with our audience, that we care about what it is they care about, and that we're trying to move in the same direction. You understand what it is that they need, and you're trying to work with them, not against them. It's not a competition. Instead, it's, I see what you need. I'm honoring that. And let me show you how this solution meets your needs, because it meets mine. And I want you to move through. Yeah. Thank you so much, both of you. Those were great examples and great reasons why. So let's take a look then at what the pitch technique is. So with the pitch technique is a persuasive technique to motivate listeners through emotional and logical appeals to create some kind of change in thinking or in action. So where Josh was probably studying debate in school, the pitch technique is this technique that can be used in 30 seconds. It can be really quick, or it can be longer. It can be up to like 3 minutes. So it's kind of a short way to get people on your side, or to get people understanding where you're coming from. Successful pitchers, they recommend being prepared, practice. I hope I said practice enough. Practicing with a variety of audiences, especially if this pitch is like a high pressure sort of situation where you only get a little bit of time to convince someone or some group or audience that your solution is the one that they should listen to. So depending on like the level of stakes, like how high stakes it is, you might practice in front of an audience, or you might practice in front of a mirror, or practice out loud as you're driving somewhere. It's important to be brief with a pitch. Sometimes with debate, it comes down to like having files of evidence and information. With the pitch, you really have to think about who that audience is and what they want to know, what's going to motivate them. So you're really audience focused or listener focused. And we usually convey empathy for the listener. Like we want them to know that we're working with them. We're trying to figure out a solution that's going to be beneficial for them. We also want to make sure that we're being honest. Ethics and communication is really important. If you're not honest, chances are the next time you go to that person or group of people and try to convince them, they're going to be a lot less likely to believe you. Practicing your pitches really is an important part of the process. You'll want to go for like natural vocal and physical delivery. That means be yourself. Like you don't have to think of doing a pitch as being robotic and saying the things. Instead, you just want to be you. Don't try to be anyone else. And then we want to be convincing with the delivery. Plan compelling ways to have your listeners retain the information. So the pitch technique is a very like logical way to put together that argument. And it's really something that, people see a real increase in their ability to influence others and gain more power in situations, be good group members. You also want to make sure you're asking specifically for what you want. This second to the last point says include a date or specified time for next steps. And really what that's all about is just make sure you're really clear about what you want to have happen. That might be, I want you to buy my Girl Scout cookies. How many boxes do you want? I'm ready to take your order right now. Or the specific next steps could be, so let's discuss a time when we can sit down and really look at the financials of buying a car together, or whatever it might be. And then the last one is craft and use an unforgettable clincher. The beginning of any communication is really important. You'll notice like at the beginning of my presentation today, I told you what you were going to get out of this. Like, I didn't want you to just roll on in and feel like, oh boy, it's another Saturday afternoon. No, you're here. You're going to get like really important things. And then at the end of our presentation, it's also important that with that final piece of communication, that people feel this clincher, this idea that's going to stick with them. So that pitch technique, these are some of the recommended approaches from successful pitchers. I don't have a ton of slides. This is the last really long slide, I promise. With the traits of a successful pitch, typically what happens is at the beginning of the pitch, you really define your why. Like you explain why your product or your concept or your service or the solution you're trying to get people to, get on board with is valuable or it's important for the audience or the listener. So like Carola was talking about, that why, like getting the audience involved right away, is really important. And then sometimes people recommend place that why into like 140 like Twitter level headline, to really be dynamic, like get it boiled down so you know exactly why your idea or your solution is a good one that people should listen to. I don't know if you've ever been like so close to an idea that when someone asks you, wow, why should we do that? Suddenly you're like, oh, like there's so many reasons why. But what they're really looking for is a condensed, very focused why statement. And so if you can get that down so you can really like boil it down to the essence of all of this, you know, reasons why, it helps them move forward and be able to like follow what you're going to say when it comes to adding that, the support and the evidence. And then it says support your value statement with up to 3 key benefits. In just a moment, we're going to move through and well, a little bit later on, look at like how to craft those benefits in a way that your audience, that matters to your audience. Identify compelling stories, data, and examples to illustrate, prove, or lend evidence to your claims. Like Josh was talking about in doing debate in class, he probably had stories, data, and examples. Listening to specifics like that really convince people. Again, I could tell you I had a bad day, but until I tell you that, you know, I missed my first class completely, oh, you don't really know how bad it might have been. And then it says, plan your attention getter, your final statement and clincher. Typically how we prepare for a pitch is we work on the body of the pitch first, and then we go back to like the beginning and the end. And the reason we do that is because we want to make sure that we're making that claim and we have that support or that evidence that Josh was talking about. The last point here is you can create a 15-second version, a 30-second version, a 90-second version, or longer of the pitch, but it's really meant to be able to be concise and specific right when you need it. All right. Any questions about what we just covered? And again, feel free to put it in the chat, or you can raise your hand, or you can just unmute yourself. Any way you want to do it is great with me.
Claire, can you email those slides after the presentation?
Absolutely. I would love to do that. Yeah, I can do that for sure. All right. So you see this girl with a magnifying glass. Right where you're at, look around and see if you can find an object near you that is either so useful or so great or has so many benefits that you feel like you could be a spokesperson for it. So let's go ahead and we'll just take 30 seconds and see if you can find something that is good enough you feel like you could be a spokesperson for it. So take a look around.
I wanna let it take control. Every time that she gets closer, she pulls me in enough to keep me guessing. Maybe I should stop and start confessing. Yeah. Oh, I've been shaking. I love it when you go crazy. You take all my inhibitions. Baby,
All right, we're there. Did everybody find some object that you feel like, yeah, this is a good object. I feel like I could, you know, be a spokesperson for it. I found a couple near me. One is this book of 3,000 questions. I love it because you can just open it up and it's just a bunch of great questions. Are you a lover or are you a fighter? If you were a stand-up comedian, who do you think, or who do you know would give you the most material? You know, just really interesting questions that sometimes I'll pull out during class as we're trying to get to know each other, or as I send people into breakout rooms, I'll, give them one of these questions to talk about. The "what was your favorite childhood toy" came out of this book. So maybe I'd say this was my object, but hopefully each of you have an object at this point. What we're going to do next is we're going to go back into the breakout rooms that you just were in. And I'd love, number one, each person show and explain the object you just chose. I just showed you and explained to you my book of 3,000 questions. And then as a group, just choose one of the objects that people brought to the table that you'll work with to create a pitch. So if I was in your group and we chose my book, then as a group, we would write a pitch to try to get people to buy my book or think that my book was good. And then the third thing is I'm going to have you complete the pitch page of your group's Jamboard. And in just a moment, I'm going to, let's see, I think I have to stop sharing for this one. I'm going to put the link for your Jamboard in the chat here. Just a second. If you're not familiar with a Jamboard, actually, here, let me get the links in there real quick. So for group 1, which that is Ajane, Carola, Josh, and Susan. Let's see. Group 1. Here's your link to your Jamboard, and I'm going to show you the Jamboard here in just a moment. And then for group 2, which is Karen, is it Karen or Karen?
It's Corinne.
Corinne, oh, great, thank you. There you go. And then also Kira and Lauren, there's your group 2 Jamboard. But let me give you a little view of what a Jamboard is. So this is group 2's Jamboard. Actually, let me come over here. All right, here's a Jamboard for us. So what this is, it's like an interactive page on the web, and you can add to it. You can add information to it. So you can use, sorry, this little link right here is for a sticky note. And if you hover over it, it will tell you what it is. And you can write anything you want to on your sticky note. When you save it, it creates this little square that you can move all around. So you can write whatever you want to on a sticky note. You can also add images. That button that I just clicked on added images. The Google image search is a great way to go. So maybe I'll find 3,000 questions book. I like this one. That's a good way to say it. So I can put like, a photo on there to help me remember. You can also use different objects, different circles or squares or things like that if you wanted to. And it draws for you. This is the box that you'll probably use a lot of. It's called the text box. And when you click on it, you can then click anywhere on the page and write what you want to write. So those are the different ways that you can use the Jamboard. Anything I can say to help clear up what the Jamboard is? I find it's easier just to jump in and try it on your own page. But if you do have any questions, let me know. All right. So let's see, I'm going to go ahead and open back up the breakout rooms. Remember, in your group, what you're going to do is share the object that you have and tell them a little bit about it. As a group, you're going to choose just one object that you're going to work with for the rest of this workshop to create a pitch. And then you're going to fill out the first page of your Jamboard. We've got 4 pages total, so we'll get our first one taken care of right now. All right, and we'll go 5 minutes on this. It might be a little fast, but let's see if we can get it taken care of in 5.
Being recorded.
All right. Was anyone in the middle of a sentence? Anyone need to say something real quick to their group? Okay. All right. So you should have just gone into your breakout room and you presented like one object you found around your house. And then as a group, you chose one that you're going to work with. And so this is what we're going to work with for the rest of our session here. And I realize we're a little short on time, so I'm going to try to move us through. Here we go. All right. So this is Monroe's motivated sequence that I talked about at the beginning of our overview. This is like a classic and true form of persuasion that is used in lots of different communication situations. And Monroe's motivated sequence can actually be a really long, like formal presentation, or it can be done over a conversation. So the techniques in here, we're going to talk about like in the pitch part. So here, let me move you on to the pitch part. So with the body of your pitch, we think about that object that you picked up and that your group is working with. And you figure out like what 3 key benefits are. So if I was working with my book of questions, one of the benefits is that it has a lot of creative solutions in it for asking questions. So my number 1 there might be creative solutions. My number 2 benefit of this book is that it's easy to use. I don't have to search for a whole lot. It just has lots of good questions. It delivers exactly what it asks for. So it's easy to use. Number 3 would then be, it's meant to be a conversation starter, and that's what it does. All right. So as you look at like the object your group chose, try to pick out 3 key benefits. And then just like Josh was saying in his debate in class, we then need to like support those claims. So for each of those key benefits, I think number 1, I said that it was, well, let me go with easy to use. So easy to use, then I might give you an example where I say, I was teaching one time and I couldn't come up with a icebreaker question. And so I found this book and I opened it up, and instantly the very first one I read was a great icebreaker. It was, when was the last time you felt lucky? And that was a great icebreaker just to get a conversation going. So with each of the benefits, you then come up with either a story or an example or a statistic. We don't have time to research during this session. So if you come up with a statistic, it doesn't have to be like an accurate one. It could just be 37% of teachers that use this book highly recommend it, or something like that. All right. So this has been recreated for you in your Jamboard, and it's on Jamboard page 2. So now we're going to go into our breakout rooms, and I try, maybe if each person wants to claim one of the benefits, decide what the benefit is, and then, because this is what you're doing. So if you've got 3 people in your group, maybe each person come up with one benefit, and then either a story, example, or a statistic underneath. You don't have to write everything out. It's more just to jog your memory so you know what you would say during that pitch. All right. Any questions before we go into the breakout room here? Okay. Same exact jam. All right. Welcome back. So you just had a chance to like build the body of your pitch in your breakout session, and did cover everything I wanted to. So I'm going to take you through just a couple of important other pieces, like the beginning of the pitch and the end of the pitch. And then if we have time, I would love to have a volunteer group to go over the body of your pitch. Tell us what your product is and what the benefits are and how those work. So with an introduction to get people involved and on the same page. Typically we start with an attention getter, and this is like a list of different attention getters, like a compelling quote, a quick story, either personal or actual, some kind of audience or listener involvement. Anyway, this is a list, and I will make sure you all have the notes for the slideshow here. On your Jamboard, you'll also see, which you can certainly access after our session too, is when you put together the introduction, you try to do an attention getter, acknowledge the listener's need, like what their problem is and how your solution is a good solution. And then if they don't know who you are, because sometimes you use a pitch when people aren't really sure who you are, you can tell them who you are and what you want. When it comes to the conclusion then, so you've done the body at this part, you'll create an introduction, body's complete, and then the conclusion. Typically, when you're getting ready to be done talking, you'll transition to the ending. So you might say something like, I just want to make sure you understand, and you review the value or the benefits, or you might even say, just so we're on the same page, or in conclusion, let me wrap this up for you real quick, whatever words you want to do. And then that yellow box right there represents the call to action. Call to action is very important because you're telling people what it is you want to have happen. I think we all need to vote for this person because they're going to represent us the best. Or the call to action might be, I think you all need to get to your local bookstore and pick up the 3,000 question book today. And then the final thing is the clincher technique. And the clincher technique is a way that really helps people like galvanize what it is that you talked about. So whatever you used for your attention getter, you can do like an ending version at the clincher technique. So if you started with a quote, you can go back to that quote, or you can say, remember that quote by George Washington? You know, it helps the listener really feel like you've presented this very tight argument or this very tight explanation. All right. So let's try it out. Do we have one of the groups that would like to present the body of their pitch? Any group feeling like, oh, let me take you to my Jamboard and we can take a look at it? And that's okay if not. Let's see, our other option, let's go take a look at the Jamboards. How about that? We'll see what
So
people...
our group didn't actually fill in the Jamboard, but
oh, okay.
We did like find a few key benefits.
Oh, you did. Okay, so you talked it through. Yeah, what were some of the key, what was your product and what were some of the key benefits?
So the product we chose was glasses.
Oh, nice.
And the 3 benefits were 1, they protect your eyes. They can help you see better because they provide a layer over your eyes and they can help zoom in or zoom out.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
And then the second one was glasses could be a very fashionable accessory. You don't always have to get prescription if you don't really need them. You could just use them with any outfit and you could just have glasses to wear them.
Nice. Oh my goodness. Did you get to a third one? Oh,
yeah.
great.
The last one was like, even if you don't want to buy them for fashion or to help you see, like you can like have almost imaginary glasses, like a thinking cap almost. You don't actually put on a hat. And glasses, you can just see the world in a different way. If in your head, you kind of just put on the glasses.
Nice, nice. So that was a great example. Thank you so much. When you think about glasses, then like that was a really logical way to look at like what the benefits of those glasses are. And then we can like take it a little step further too and look at like the examples of those. Really nice job. Great work, group 1. And group 2, I wish I had more time, but I don't have more time to hear from you. What was the object you chose though?
It was a Fitbit.
Oh, a Fitbit. Oh, great. Yeah. Hopefully you had great discussions about like the benefits of that. Let's see. So with our pitch presentation today, you learned, even though we didn't get to everything, you learned a lot of different ways to have your voice heard, to influence other people, to become a key part of the groups that you work with, to be more successful at work and school, and definitely to have more power. Whenever we look at communication and figuring out ways to make our thoughts clear, I always think back to a quote by Aristotle, and he said, if you don't have a way to communicate your thoughts, you might as well have never had the thought at all. And so that's really what communication is for me, this way that you can share these incredible thoughts and these incredible ideas with the people in the world around you, because you all who are here on this Zoom session today, you really are our future. And there are so many wonderful solutions and creations that are going to come out of this group in the future. So thank you so much for sharing part of your afternoon with me. My name is Claire Sparklin, and I will put the link to the slideshow here in the chat. And then I'll also, I think they're going to send out my email. So if you have any questions or want to connect in any way, I would love to keep the conversation going. Feel free to stick around to chat if you'd like.
Thank you so much, Claire.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Have a
Bye.
great
Have a
weekend.
great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. It was nice seeing everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much.